Hi, I'm Julie Voudray from Baking with Julie, and welcome to my kitchen. I had such a great response from the gravy tutorial I posted recently that I thought you guys might want to have some other tips for Thanksgiving. So today I'm going to share with you some favorites of mine, 2 wonderful cranberry relishes, and of course, you gotta have mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. So let's get started. I can't imagine Thanksgiving at my house without cranberries, and I want to share with you a family favorite that my mom shared with me a long time ago. It's a fresh kind of relish. You really do have to make this one a day or 2 in advance because it needs to set when it's all together and let the flavors kind of meld, and it's much better that way. But I'm just going to show you how easy this is to make. I use a food processor for mine, but you can chop it by hand if you don't have one of these machines at home. So you take 3 cups of cranberries. Now if you get the smaller bags, that's like 1 12-ounce bag. I buy these really large bags, so I have to measure mine out. And you want to rinse your cranberries first, make sure there's no bad ones in there, remove any stems that might be in. And the next bit, you just take 1 whole orange, the whole thing, not seeds if it is seeded, peel and all, and I kind of chop it roughly, and I put that in. And then last but not least is an apple that's been chopped roughly. Any kind will do. This one happens to be Honeycrisp. And you just put that all in the food processor like that. And I'm going to mix this together here on pulse. You can see how quickly this comes together. It takes almost no time at all. And at this point, I'm going to just kind of mix it around here to make sure everything gets a good even chop, and I'm going to add some sugar. This is about 3/4 cup of sugar, and you have so many tart flavors in here between the orange and the cranberry. It really does need sugar to kind of make all of that flavor come together. There you go. Now you do want to be careful that you don't over process this, or you're going to end up with just a big bunch of mush. But I think what I have here is just about right. So all I have to do with this is just put it in a container, put it in my refrigerator, and on Thanksgiving Day, this will be so, so delicious. The next cranberry dish I want to show you, you can actually find a recipe for it on the back of your bag of cranberries. It's homemade jellied cranberry sauce, and it is the easiest thing in the world to make. I do change mine just a little bit, and I'll show you how. I use 3 cups of cranberries, just in a nice little pot, and it calls for a cup of water and a cup of sugar. But what I like to do is I use a cup of orange juice, and of course I still use the cup of sugar. But then I also like to take some pieces of orange peel and add into it. Now you could certainly use water instead, but I really like the taste of the orange with the cranberry. And all you have to do is just kind of stir this around, and we're going to get that started. And once it gets to a simmer, you're going to cook it for about 10 minutes. So you can see as it begins to simmer, the cranberries, the skin on them kind of pops open a little bit, and it also starts to get a little foamy. So I've already turned down the temperature so it stays more on a gentle simmer instead of a hard boil, and it'll just be a few more minutes and it'll be done.
Rolling.
So you can see it's all nice and cooked now. The consistency has definitely changed quite a bit. I'm just taking the last of the little orange peel out that we put in earlier. Now at this point you could leave it as a whole cranberry sauce, just pour it into a container and it'll kind of solidify and gel. But what I like to do is to take my immersion blender and I like to puree it, just like this. This makes a really nice smooth texture that I think is just great. So at this point I'll pour this into a container and let it cool, and it'll kind of gel up to a nice lovely sauce. Well, after I showed you how to make a good gravy from scratch, I certainly couldn't leave out the mashed potatoes. So I know that seems like a simple thing to make, but I'll show you a few of the tips that I use when I make mine. One is that I buy the really large potatoes. Now you have to realize when I make mashed potatoes, I probably do 10 to 15 pounds at a time for our big family. So this just cuts a lot of labor for me. I don't have as many to peel. It just goes a lot faster. The other thing, when I boil my potatoes, I cut them, but I try to cut them in pieces that are a similar size. You can certainly cut yours bigger or smaller than what I've done here. Just make sure they're consistent and so they'll all cook at the same rate. I do salt my water a little bit, and that just helps the potatoes obviously to taste better later than just adding salt at the end. And if you notice how much water I have, it's just barely covering the top of the tops of the potato. Okay, so that's basically it. At this point, I'm going to simmer it, and it will take about 20 minutes for them to cook until they're fork tender. Well, the potatoes are now fork tender, and we're ready to drain and mash them. Well, now we're ready to mash, and I don't put mine through a mixer or anything special. I just use an old potato masher and I mash them. But I also add some butter, and you know it is Thanksgiving, so we don't have to worry about calories and fat, right? We can go for it. So I put in real butter and let that melt in there. And remember, I've already salted my potatoes, so that will help us on the salt side. And I like to use a little heavy cream. Yes, it is Thanksgiving, so this may not be how you have mashed potatoes every day. Of course, you probably shouldn't have mashed potatoes every day. And this is really more to taste, how much you add in. It's just how much you like, how creamy you want your potatoes. I don't mind my potatoes not being completely, perfectly pureed. I don't mind there being just a little lumps in there. To me is not a bad thing at all. And I do like a good stiff shot of pepper. Now, like I said, when I usually make mashed potatoes, it's in a very large container. So I have to add a lot more butter and salt and pepper and cream to make mine good. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to taste and just see where I'm at. That's pretty good, but I'm going to add just a little more cream, and I am going to add just a little more salt. And we'll see how that is. Of course, with that good gravy that you're going to make from scratch at your house, your mashed potatoes are going to taste amazing, I'm sure. Let me try that again. Okay, that's about right. The mashed potatoes are very easy to make, but so delicious to eat. Well, there you have it. Here we have our cooked cranberry sauce, our fresh cranberry relish. Just make sure you make it the day before so those flavors have a chance to come together and meld. And of course, the creamy mashed potatoes, which I know for my hubby, as long as he has a big plate of those and some delicious gravy on top, he is set for the day. Well, I hope you've enjoyed these little Thanksgiving tips. And if you happen to miss my gravy tutorial, just go to bakingwithjulie.com. You'll see Julie's Crumbs on there. It's my blog. And on there, you'll find a link to that video, plus lots of other recipe ideas that you can use any season of the year. Before I leave you today, I want to give you two little things to think about. And one, this Thanksgiving, remember, even when times are hard, and I know sometimes times really do get hard, there is always something that you have to be thankful for. And number two, I hope that this Thanksgiving, as you gather with family, maybe some you haven't seen for a while, that you can lay down your differences, even for one day. I know with the election that just happened, there's a lot of strife in our nation right now. But I hope that you guys can gather around the table and agree to respect one another, even if you don't agree on all the issues, and just celebrate the specialness of family and friends and the people that you love. Happy Thanksgiving again, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, like it, share it, comment, go to my Facebook Baking with Julie page and like that, and don't forget, bakingwithjulie.com has lots more recipes for you to enjoy. Thanks again.